been so terribly affected. I'm here with Lorene just so we can share our thoughts and prayers with all of the victims, with their families, and with their friends, and also as Prime Minister to express the solidarity of all Canadians with the people here, something I know the people of Lac-Mégantic greatly appreciate. Thanks.
All right, that was Prime Minister Stephen Harper speaking after this moving ceremony, a tribute to those lost and those living with their loss in Lac-Mégantic. The Governor General has just arrived at the microphones. Let's listen in live.
La solidarité, le support du peuple de Canada, ça exige beaucoup de courage pour les peuples
takes a great
de
deal
Lac-Mégantic.
of courage on the part of the people of Lac-Mégantic to rebuild their lives.
We've witnessed a terrible tragedy here in this beautiful little town, and my wife Sharon and I are here to represent the people of Canada and to show their solidarity and their care for the people of Lac-Mégantic. And now they have the great challenge of rebuilding their community. And they will do so with courage and with the support of all Canadians. Merci, thank you.
All right, you've been watching a memorial service in Lac-Mégantic today for the victims and the families of those left behind by that tragic rail disaster that killed 47 people. Our Willie Lowry has been in Lac-Mégantic since this disaster happened, and he is there again today. I want to bring him in. Willie?
Yes.
Quite a ceremony, I have to say. Some really beautiful moments in there. One that really stuck out for me was Pierrette Turgeon Blanchette. She's a grandmother, and she said she taught a lot of the victims who were lost that night. And she read out the names of all 47 victims, and then afterwards she said, she ended by saying, "To console us, let us remember these words out of the book of Isaiah. I will not forget you. I have your names etched on the palms of my hands." And what I thought was particularly touching was the way that she was reading all this from this giant, what looked like a storybook, and then she held that storybook as she walked off the stage, almost to give those 47 people this giant hug and comfort them. It was quite amazing. What stuck out for you, Willie, in there?
Absolutely. I mean, that was a truly touching moment when Madame Blanchette read each name and rested on each name, allowing the family members to sort of hear their loved ones' names and to think and conjure up the memories of them. That was certainly a very moving moment. You know, it's really difficult to find the right words to describe just how moving the ceremony was, both inside the St. Agnes Church and outside. This is a community that has endured so much over the last 3 weeks, a town of just 6,000 people that has lost 47 members of its community. You know, that is such a dramatic, significant number in a town this size, a town where everybody knows everyone, where everyone knows one of the victims. And that is why there are so many people, both inside the church and outside here behind me, gathered on Rue Laval to hold hands, to come together, to grieve and to try and just for at least a moment say goodbye properly to their loved ones and friends and family.
Mm-hmm. Willie, you mentioned that because this community is so small, just 6,000 people, it seems everyone is touched by this. How important was this memorial for the community?
Well, I think it was certainly significant. I was speaking to several people over the last few days, and they said that they were looking forward to the Mass, that it was an opportunity, as I mentioned, for them to come together and to grieve and to say a proper goodbye to their loved ones. But they also know that while they're going to say goodbye today, that they will be saying goodbye to their loved ones forever, that the tragedy that occurred now 3 weeks ago will haunt them, will live with them for the rest of their lives, and that they're going to have to learn to deal with that pain and that sadness, because it's happened. And there's a sort of incredibly powerful and incredible strength of the people here, a matter-of-fact strength that this happened, it was terrible, but it happened. And if they want to move on, they're going to have to come together and just soldier on, and that's really what they've been doing over the last several days. It's truly been inspiring to see the community react and come together and rebuild.
Mm-hmm. And I thought what the Reverend said, one of the many speakers that was there, that really spoke to that point that you just made, was he said that no one can bring the dead back to life. However, by opening up to the love and spirit from God, life will triumph. We heard a lot of moving quotes from the speakers. Who else did we hear from?
Well, one of the moments that I really was touched by was when Thomas Aguin, a young singer here, sang a cappella just by himself a song about the accident. And as he was singing, they actually distributed 47 flowers to each of the families of the victims, and it was actually quite hard to hold back the tears. It was just such an emotional moment as the crowd sort of sombered up and really got close to one another as he sung his song and the flowers were handed out to each of the families.
Yeah, I also thought that was just absolutely beautiful. It seemed like this voice in this vast silence there, it really kind of cut through St. Agnes Church. It was really quite beautiful. You know, Willie, I know this is, it's emotional for everyone there. And I mentioned when I was introducing you, you've been there since the earliest hours of this disaster. It's now been 3 weeks. What have you seen in terms of a transition in this community from those earliest hours to now?
Well, when I think back to when I arrived at around 9 o'clock on that Saturday, there was a sense of sort of bewilderment, of confusion. No one really knew what happened, but there was a concern about who they may have known inside the red zone, who may have perished. It wasn't a question of whether they were survivors or whether their friends were hurt. It was who they knew that was there, and that's something that only in retrospect I was able to sort of key in on. But from that moment to today, it's been an incredible opportunity just to see how this community has come together and has gradually transitioned from sort of confusion, bewilderment, sadness, even anger at times, to this has happened and now we have to move on. And of course there are several lawsuits going on, and they are going to do everything they can to hold whoever is responsible for what happened. But they are also going to move on with their lives. I spoke to one man just yesterday who I'd spoken to several times over the course of the last few weeks, but I hadn't spoke to in a few days, and he said that he had finally been back to work and that it was such a joy just to get back to normal life. And that's, I think, a challenge that everybody here is trying to do, to just get back to work, go about their lives how they would have before. Of course, there'll never be a before. They'll always hold the pain, the sadness of what has happened here with them, but they have to move on. And that's the feeling, I think, that many here are feeling right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, a really poignant ceremony. Willie, thank you for your reporting. I can't tell you how much we appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Our Willie Lowry in Lac-Mégantic.